Before he even turned 17, Lamine Yamal had already rewritten the rules of modern football, a teenager who plays with the composure of a champion while the world celebrates him. Yet far from the noise of the stadiums, he doesn't live in the glare of fame, but in silence, supported by family, discipline, and faith. What truly makes such a young player great? Talent alone or the values that shape him? To understand that, we must go back to where it all began. Lamine Yamal was born on July 13, 2007, in Esplugues de Llobregat, in an environment shaped by modesty and contrasts. After his parents separated, he grew up between two worlds, his mother's small apartment and his father's simple home in Mataró. His family roots trace back to Morocco and Equatorial Guinea, but his identity was forged on the concrete pitches of Catalonia, especially in the working-class neighborhood of Rocafonda, where dreams are often bigger than the possibilities. As early as 4 years old, the ball entered his life, not as a toy, but as an instinct. Football early on became his language, a way of understanding the world. In Rocafonda, he learned to assert himself, to develop patience, and to believe in himself despite limited means. This environment taught him humility and perseverance, values that stay with him to this day. But was it only talent that set him apart, or was it the inner peace that made him different from the start? And how could a child from simple backgrounds attract the attention of one of the world's biggest clubs so early? When FC Barcelona scouts observed Lamine Yamal at just 6 years old, they didn't just see a talented child, they saw something rare. In La Masia, the club's legendary talent factory, a path began for him that meant more than training and tactics. While other children mostly learned routines, Yamal developed a sense for rhythm, timing, and space that went far beyond his age. Coaches described him as a player who already reads the game before it unfolds. He moved with a natural calm, as if he were anticipating the next moment. La Masia shaped not only his technique, but also his character. Discipline, patience, and responsibility became integral parts of his daily life. Early on, he carried the expectation that something special was growing. But how does a teenager deal with the pressure of being seen as the hope of a world-class club? And when did this extraordinary talent become the player who would make history? On April 29, 2023, expectation became reality. At just 15 years old, Lamine Yamal stepped onto the big stage of FC Barcelona's first team for the first time. His debut against Real Betis lasted only a few minutes, but a single touch of the ball was enough to show that something extraordinary was beginning here. Fearless, precise, and astonishingly calm, he played as if the pressure were invisible. In the same season, Barcelona won the league title, and Yamal's name began to circulate throughout Europe. The 2023-24 season turned quiet voices into headlines. At 16, he became the youngest goal scorer in league history, made 50 appearances, and scored 7 goals. The €1 billion release clause caused amazement. Comparisons with former legends became inevitable. But Yamal didn't chase any shadow. He charted his own path. Was this just an early peak, or the beginning of a new era? And how would such a young player handle an expectation that usually only experienced professionals carry? The 2024-25 season marked the transition from promise to power. At 17 years old, Lamine Yamal scored in decisive moments, both in the Clásico and the Champions League semi-finals, leading FC Barcelona to a national triple. The press called him the quiet storm of Catalonia, a player who turns chaos into art. In 55 appearances, he scored 18 goals and from then on wore the number 10, a symbol of great responsibility. Parallel to this, his rise was reflected in the national team. He debuted for the Spanish national team at 16 and scored immediately, as the youngest goal scorer in history. At Euro 2024, he became the revelation of the tournament, with decisive assists and a powerful goal against France. A year later, he helped win the Nations League and solidified his status as the face of a new generation. But how does such a young player stay grounded when titles, records, and expectations grow simultaneously? And what happens away from the big stadiums there, where success meets silence? Away from the cameras and headlines, Lamine Yamal finds peace in his private villa in Esplugues de Llobregat. Tucked away in an exclusive area above Barcelona, the estate stands for restraint rather than show. The purchase, concluded after discreet negotiations, reflects no urge for display, but a desire for stability and concentration. The house is open, light-filled, and deliberately minimalist in design. White walls, natural materials, and clean lines create an atmosphere of silence. Here, Yamal trades the noise of the stadiums for laughter in a small circle, recovery, and mental balance. A private training area, large glass surfaces facing the garden, and quiet retreats make the property a place where body and soul come to rest equally. This villa is not a symbol of wealth, but a reflection of his attitude. Freedom needs discipline. Success needs silence. But what does such a home mean when you are barely of age? And why does family also play a central role here? Lamine Yamal's first major purchase was not for himself, but for his grandmother in Roccafonda. In the neighborhood where his story began, he gave her a quiet home. She was the one who shaped him, who supported him when football was still a distant dream. For Yamal, this house remains a place of memory and grounding, which he visits regularly. Not far from there, he bought a modern apartment for his mother and his younger brother in Mataró. Bright, simple, and with a view of the sea, it offers safety and peace. His mother continues to lead a modest life, and Yamal often returns there to spend time with the family, far away from public interest. His father also received a home, a penthouse in the heart of Example. 3 houses, 3 hearts. For Yamal, they are not a sign of luxury, but an expression of gratitude. In every key handover lies the same message: family comes before everything. But how does this support change his view of success? And what influence does this connection have on his handling of money and responsibility? At barely 18 years old, Lamine Yamal is already among the youngest millionaires in professional football. His estimated net worth is around $8 million, but this number only tells part of the story. A large portion of his income comes not from the pitch, but from the value of his name and his image. Brands recognized his charisma and authenticity early on, most notably Adidas, which signed him to a long-term contract and made him one of the youngest ambassadors in the company's history. Added to this are further partnerships that strengthen his profile and bring in millions annually. Parallel to this, his contract at FC Barcelona secured him a steady income with performance-related bonuses, protected by an exceptionally high release clause. All these numbers could easily lead to excess, but with Yamal, there is little sign of it. He lives reservedly, plans thoughtfully, and acts as if he had understood early on that wealth means responsibility. How does a teenager handle such financial weight? And what does he choose to give, instead of just possessing? Despite his young age, Lamine Yamal measures greatness not only in goals but in attitude. As a UNICEF ambassador, he took on responsibility without staging. In a simple message, he reminded everyone that every child has the right to play and to dream. This attitude also shows away from the public eye, when he returns to La Masia or chooses gestures that seek gratitude instead of attention. In everyday life, his life remains surprisingly simple: training, recovery, time with the family, shared meals, quiet evenings, short walks. He uses social media sparingly and looks ahead, learns languages, analyzes the game, thinks about the time after his career. Thus, his world remains manageable, grounded, and clear. Is it exactly this simplicity that protects him from the pressure? And does the true secret of his maturity lie here? Lamine Yamal's story shows that true greatness grows quietly. Talent opens doors, but values give direction. His journey has only just begun, carried by family, discipline, and inner peace. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and join us for the next chapters.